During a family gathering, my brother stood up and declared, "Mom and Dad decided I should move into your house." I took a sip of my drink and said, "That's funny, because I sold it last week." His jaw dropped when I handed him. Family gatherings in my family are like an obligation, not a celebration. Twice a year, we all get together at my parents' house Christmas and my mom's birthday. It's a forced tradition, one I have tolerated for years. But this was the year I had enough. A little background: I'm the older sibling, and my younger brother, let's call him Jake, has been the golden child since birth. He's the type that could set the house on fire, and my parents would scold the fire department for not arriving sooner. Meanwhile, I once got grounded for getting an A instead of an A. Jake never held a job for more than 6 months. At 34, he was still living with my parents, not contributing a single penny. He didn't pay rent, didn't buy groceries, didn't even do chores. My parents babied him, and I was the one they constantly leaned on, whether it was borrowing money, fixing things around their house, or playing therapist whenever Jake got dumped by his latest girlfriend. But this year was different. A few months before this family gathering, I had a realization. I was done. Done being their safety net. Done being the fallback plan for their golden boy. So I made some moves. One of those moves? Selling my house. The gathering from hell. I arrived at the family gathering already knowing something was up. My mom was practically glowing, and Jake had this smug grin like he had just won the lottery. Halfway through dinner, my dad cleared his throat, nudging Jake. My gut told me I wasn't going to like what came next. Jake stood up, raised his glass, and with a huge smile on his face, announced, "So, Mom and Dad decided I should move into your house." Silence. I stared at him, fork halfway to my mouth. My mom clapped her hands together. "Yes. Since you're always traveling for work, it makes sense for Jake to live there instead of wasting money on rent." Now, let me be clear. They never asked me. Never mentioned it. Never even hinted at it. Just decided amongst themselves that my house was now Jake's new bachelor pad. I calmly set my fork down, reached for my wine, took a sip. Then, in the most casual tone, I said, "That's funny because I sold it last week." Jake's smug expression vanished. My mom's face paled. My dad choked on his drink. "What?" my mom finally managed to say. "I sold the house," I repeated, pulling a thick envelope from my bag. I slid it across the table toward Jake. "And since I knew you'd try to pull something like this, I even brought proof. That's the finalized sale contract." Jake ripped the envelope open, eyes scanning the document in horror. "No, no, no. You can't do this. I was supposed to move in." Mom and Dad said. "Mom and Dad don't own my house," I said, now turning my attention to my parents. "And neither do you." Meltdown ensues. My mom immediately started crying. "How could you do this? Your brother needs a place to live." I shrugged. "He's 34. He can figure it out." Jake slammed the papers down. "You can just buy another place. Let me move in until then." I left. Like, genuinely left. "You expect me to just buy another house because you need a place to crash? Do you hear yourself?" "But, no." I stood up. "Not my problem." That's when my dad, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "This was selfish, my name. You know your brother isn't as successful as you." "I know," I said, grabbing my coat. "But that's because he's never had to be. Because you two keep enabling him." And with that, I walked out. The fallout the next few weeks were glorious. Jake had an absolute meltdown. He actually went to the house and knocked on the door only to find a lovely retired couple living there. He screamed at them about his house and got himself escorted off the property. My parents called me demanding I fix it. I blocked them. Then the extended family got involved. The calls, the messages, oh, they came flooding in. "Jake is homeless now because of you. Your parents are heartbroken. You should have told them first. It was just one house. You could have given it to your brother." I ignored them all. Eventually, word got out that Jake had moved into my parents' basement. A 34-year-old man sleeping on a couch in the house he never had to leave in the first place. Karma. As for me, I took my money and left for a long vacation, and I don't plan on coming back anytime soon. The nightmare wasn't over. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I had made my grand exit, washed my hands of their nonsense, and could move on with my life. But no, Jake and my parents were just getting started. A week into my vacation, I got a call from a restricted number. I usually ignore those, but something told me to pick up. "Where the hell are you?" It was my mom, her voice shrill. "We've been trying to reach you for days." I sighed. "Mom, I blocked all of you for a reason." "You have no right," she screeched. "Do you know what you've done? Jake is suffering." I put the phone on speaker and went back to sipping my drink, lounging on the balcony of my beachside rental. "Oh, yeah? What's he up to now?" "He got evicted." I blinked. "Evicted? From your house?" My mom let out a dramatic sigh, like she had been personally victimized by my actions. Yes. He had some trouble, and we had to ask him to leave. It's all because of you. I bit back a laugh. How is it my fault that you kicked him out? You forced him into a bad situation. I rolled my eyes. Okay, what did he do? Silence. Then, reluctantly, she said, he ran up our credit cards. We told him it was just for emergencies, but he maxed them all out. I nearly choked on my drink. Wait, you gave him credit cards? My God. How stupid are you? Do not speak to me like that. Then stop acting like I owe you something. She took a deep breath, and I could practically hear her mentally composing herself before speaking again. Look. We need your help. Your father and we're not doing well financially. Jake has nowhere to go. You need to fix this. No. You need to fix this. Just let him stay with you for a while. He won't be any trouble. Your family. I left. Left? I mean, at this point, what else could I do? Oh, you think I still live somewhere, you know? I asked. That's adorable. My mom gasped. What do you mean? I moved. Another silence. Where? Wouldn't you like to know? I hung up. The stalker phase ignoring my family wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. They didn't just let things go. Jake, especially, had no intention of moving on. At first, it was just calls from unknown numbers dozens a day. Then emails from burner accounts. I ignored them all. Then it escalated. One day, I got a notification from my bank. Someone had tried to access my account. I locked everything down immediately, changed passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, but something fell off. The next morning, my phone buzzed with an email from my realtor. Hey, just confirming your change of address request? What the hell? I called her immediately. What request? She explained that someone had called pretending to be me and asked for my new address. They even gave some of my personal details, my old home address, my birth date. But my realtor got suspicious when they couldn't answer a basic security question. I knew exactly who was behind it. Jake. This was next-level insanity. He wasn't just mad. He was hunting for me. The confrontation I decided I was done playing defense. Jake wanted a war? Fine. I unblocked my parents. The moment I did, my mom's number lit up my screen. I answered. What the hell is wrong with Jake? I snapped. She actually had the nerve to sound offended. Why are you so angry? You haven't spoken to us in weeks. You mean the weeks where Jake tried to commit identity theft? My mom went quiet. Yeah, that's right, I said. Tell me why your golden boy is trying to get my private information. He wouldn't do that. Oh, so it was a coincidence that someone tried to change my address? That someone tried to get into my bank? A coincidence that only started after I cut Jake off? My mom sighed. He's desperate. You abandoned him. His life is ruined, and all you do is mock him. No. He ruined his own life, I snapped. And if he keeps this up, I'm going to the cops. That finally got a reaction. The cops? She shrieked. Yes, the cops. I have evidence. So tell your little boy to back off or I'll make sure he spends some quality time behind bars. She begged. Please, just talk to him. Just help him one last time. I let out a slow, deep breath. Put him on the phone. I heard rustling, then Jake's voice, smug as ever. Oh, now you want to talk? I just want to know one thing, Jake. Silence. I leaned in. What was your plan? If you got my address, were you going to show up? Demand I hand over my new place? He didn't answer. You seriously thought I wouldn't fight back? I laughed coldly. You always thought I was your safety net. That no matter what, I'd catch you. But guess what? I cut the net. So if you fall now, you're hitting the ground, hard. You think you're better than me, he hissed. No, I know I'm better than you. I hung up. Twist. The final act isn't over yet. After that, I thought things would cool down. But then, things got even worse. 3 days later, I got a text from a friend. Hey. Saw a weird post about you on Facebook. Thought you should know. My stomach dropped. I opened the link. It was a public post from a random, fake-looking account. But the post? It was all about me. Lies. Crazy, twisted lies. It claimed I had abandoned my dying parents. That I stole money from them. That I was a horrible, selfish person who left my family to suffer while I ran off to live some fancy new life. The comments? Full of people eating it up. Wow. Disgusting. How could someone do this to their own family? I hope they lose everything. Then I saw who shared it. Jake and my mom. They weren't just mad. They were trying to ruin my name. And that was the last mistake they'd ever make. Betrayal runs deep. I wish I could say I was surprised. But honestly, I wasn't. My family had always been like this. Always playing the victim. Always twisting the truth to make themselves look like the poor, innocent martyrs. But what really pissed me off was the sheer effort they put into it. This wasn't just some vague Facebook rant. No, they went all in. They contacted my job. They called my friends. They even reached out to my ex. People were messaging me nonstop, some furious, some confused. Is it true? Why would you do that to your own family? Did you really steal from them? I was beyond furious. This wasn't just drama anymore. This was a smear campaign. And if they wanted a war, I was done playing defense. The setup. I spent the next few days gathering evidence. Screenshots of Jake's attempted identity theft. The messages he had sent harassing me for money. The proof that I had never stolen from my parents. In fact, it was the other way around. Then I hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, a pitbull. The kind of lawyer who lives for cases like this. I sent a cease and desist letter to my parents and Jake demanding they take down the posts and stop spreading false information about me. I expected them to back down. I figured they'd get scared, delete everything, and finally shut up. I was wrong. Instead, Jake doubled down. The family's last gamble. A week later, I got an actual legal notice in the mail. My parents and Jake were suing me. I stared at the papers, completely stunned. They were claiming emotional distress, that I had abandoned them, that I had financially abused them, that I had left them destitute while I lived a lavish lifestyle. I sat there holding the papers, trying not to laugh at the sheer insanity of it all. They had no case, but they were banking on one thing, that I would be too scared to fight back. Big mistake. The courtroom disaster. The first hearing was a disaster for them. Jake showed up in a suit that didn't fit, looking like a kid playing dress-up. My parents sat beside him, fake tears ready. Their lawyer was some budget, bottom-of-the-barrel guy who clearly took their case just for the check. My lawyer tore them apart. We presented financial records proving I had never stolen a cent. Screenshots of Jake harassing me for money. Proof of the identity theft attempt. The judge took one look at the mess in front of them and basically said, "Are you kidding me?" The case was thrown out. Jake lost it. "This isn't fair," he screamed in the courtroom. He, she, whatever ruined my life. The judge glared. "Sir, if you don't calm down, you'll be held in contempt." And just like that, my family's big revenge plan blew up in their faces. But I wasn't done. The final blow. The next day, I sued them back. For defamation. For emotional distress. For harassment. Jake didn't take it seriously. He laughed at the lawsuit, convinced I was bluffing until the court ruled in my favor. I won a 5-figure settlement. And since my parents had co-signed Jake's debts, guess what? They had to pay up. My mom begged me not to enforce the judgment. "I'm your mother," she sobbed. "Please don't do this. You should have thought about that before you helped Jake try to destroy my life." She screamed at me, called me heartless, but I didn't care. I made sure that every single penny got collected. Jake? Broke? My parents? Financially wrecked. And me? I took my money and never looked back. But then, one last twist. Months later, I got an email from Jake. The subject line? "You win. But you should know something." I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. The email was short. Mom and Dad lied to me too. They told me they had set up an inheritance for me, that if I waited, I'd be taken care of. They never saved a dime. I was supposed to get the house. Your house. That's why they pushed me to move in. Because they needed you to keep it so I'd have something. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Then came the kicker. They're in deep debt, not just from the lawsuit. They owe people money, bad people. And now that they're broke, guess who those people are coming after? My blood ran cold. I knew my parents weren't great with money. But bad people? How bad are we talking? And just like that, I realized this wasn't over. The truth comes crashing down after reading Jake's email. I sat there for a long time, just processing. My parents had lied to everyone. Not just me. Not just Jake. Everyone. They weren't just bad with money. They weren't just entitled. They were in deep with the wrong people. And now? Those people were looking for payment. And if my parents didn't have the money, someone was going to get hurt. I had two choices. Walk away. Let them deal with their own mess. Find out just how bad this really was. Against my better judgment, I decided to find out. Digging up the dirt, it didn't take long to get answers. A few calls to old contacts, a few records pulled, and the truth hit me like a train. My parents owed over $100,000. Not just to banks, not just to credit card companies, to loan sharks. And Jake? Turns out, he wasn't the only screw-up. My dad had a gambling problem. My mom had been covering for him for years. When their money ran out, they started borrowing. When their borrowing wasn't enough, they made promises they couldn't keep. And when I sold my house, that was the last safety net they thought they had. Now with nothing left, someone was coming to collect. Jake's desperate plea. 2 days later, Jake showed up at my door. I don't even know how he found me, but there he was, disheveled, desperate, scared. He looked nothing like the smug jerk I had grown up with. I need your help, he said. I crossed my arms. Why would I do that? His hands were shaking. Because if you don't, someone's going to die. For the first time in my life, I saw real fear in Jake's eyes. They came to the house, he whispered. Mom and Dad thought they could talk their way out of it. They were wrong. What happened? I asked, my stomach twisting. Jake swallowed hard. They trashed the place. Took everything valuable. Left a warning. What kind of warning? Jake pulled up his sleeve. There on his forearm was a deep, fresh bruise. They told me if they don't get their money soon, next time, it won't just be a warning. I let out a slow breath. So what? You expect me to pay off their debt? Jake shook his head. No. I expect you to help me take them down. The setup for justice, I didn't want to get involved. I had spent years getting away from my family's mess. But this was different. So I did what they never expected me to do. I went to the police, and I gave them everything. The fake lawsuit they had filed against me, the identity theft attempt, the fraud, the proof of their debts. And then, I tipped off the loan sharks. Not with money. Oh, no. With evidence. I showed them exactly how much my parents had, how they had hidden assets, how they had been lying to everyone. Within a week, my parents were arrested. Fraud, tax evasion, debt-related crimes. They had scammed people, lied, borrowed money they never intended to pay back, and now they were going to prison. And Jake? Jake had a choice to make. He could keep running, or he could finally grow up. For the first time in his life, he did the right thing. He testified against our parents, told the court everything, helped the police track every scam, every lie, every debt. It didn't erase what he had done, but it was the first step toward fixing his own life. He got probation, community service, a fresh start. And me? I walked away for good. Justice served. My parents got sentenced to 5 years in prison. Jake got his life together. And me? I finally got what I had wanted for years. Peace. No more phone calls. No more manipulation. No more drama. I was free. And for the first time in my life, it felt damn good. The end.